Assemblyman Gene Mullin has some interesting thoughts on some hot educational topics. Stay with us to find out.
In January, it's so nice, blossoming on the sliding ice. To sip hot chicken soup with rice, sipping once, sipping twice, sipping chicken soup with rice. Give it a run, go away, forest and roam all day, and dream about hot soup all day. Home right once, home right twice, eating soup, eating chicken soup with rice, chicken soup with rice.
Hi, I'm Bruce Grantham, and welcome to Our Children, Our Future, a program about education in the South San Francisco Unified School District. I want to welcome Assemblyman Gene Mullin to the program tonight to continue our conversation of last time about key issues facing public education. Gene, thank you for joining me again.
Thanks for inviting me back.
Maybe not, because we're going to talk about finance. Nothing's more important to education, I guess, right now is finance.
May I leave now?
No, you're locked in, I think. Maybe we can begin our conversation about school finance by talking about the difference between basic aid and revenue limit funding for school districts. And San Mateo County has both kinds of school districts. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, California has a bifurcated system of funding. We have a revenue limit, a certain amount per student per year. And when school districts don't reach that amount through their property tax, the state then backfills the difference between the revenue limit and how much is generated. Some districts, and about 75 out of the more than 1,000 school districts in California, have a high enough property tax that they fully fund their own school districts, and then as their property tax increases, that money stays in the school district. So you get a system by which you have a relatively small group of extremely wealthy districts, at least by state standards, and then the vast majority are somewhat lower funded. When you have that combination in a county like San Mateo County, where you have cheek to jowl, a basic aid district and a revenue limit district, there's a great disparity in how much is spent per student, and then you get a lot of fallout from that, such as teachers moving because of higher salaries, and in some instances, parents attempting to get their kids into better funded school districts. So it's a real systemic problem we have to deal with.
And this is a problem statewide, not just San Mateo County.
Absolutely. Although it's spotty, there are large areas of particularly rural California where there are no basic aid districts, and then you have pockets throughout the state. We have a series of problems. When you get to the rural areas, you have most of the school districts, with the exception of the San Joaquin Valley and the Moreno Valley, are declining enrollment, and their revenue limit, and so they're small school districts that lose students, which puts a great impact on their programs because they don't get that funding. So
right, and the funding is per student.
It is based on the number of students.
It seems like a very unfair and unequal field to play. I mean, right here in San Mateo County, as you said, we've got neighboring school districts. One is funded much higher than another. What seems to be the remedy? Is there a remedy?
Well, there are lots of suggestions. Unfortunately, most of the suggestions tend to evolve around, well, let's take money from the basic aid districts and push them down to where the revenue limits are. And in fact, that's what Gray Davis proposed 2 years ago, much to his chagrin, because that didn't go anywhere. So the real trick is to design a way by which we can increase the funding to the revenue limit districts so they come close to approximating where basic aid districts are, but that requires, of course, more funding. There are some procedures around the edges. We've looked at perhaps some reallocation of money from the lottery, but again, these are they're not systemic changes. And while we're taping this in November, we are looking at a package that will do some more fundamental changes in educational funding that perhaps will be introduced in January of 2005, but that's still in the works, and we're talking to many of the school districts, many of the educational coalition to see if we can come up with a package that everybody can agree to. Very difficult issue.
So maybe in the future, when the time is right, you can come back and talk to us some more about that then.
Be happy to do that. We've been very supportive of equalization funding, which tends to balance out any differences among the revenue limit school districts, and by funding the lower wealth districts to bring them up closer, but that still doesn't address the major difference that exists between, as an example, the Sequoia district and the Jefferson district. Same county, but dramatically different amounts of funding with the students in one compared to the other. So that, it certainly, we all are all aware of that. And the question is, of course, to devise a formula in a very difficult economic climate that enables the revenue limit districts to come closer to basic aid. But we're working on it.
Thank you for that explanation, and I'm sure that our viewers appreciate that too, because that whole inequity is a difficult one for I think everybody to understand. We're going to do something now that maybe you're not prepared for, but you're always prepared to answer questions. We're going to do our little hot topic segment, and I'm just going to throw you a hot topic in education. Give me 30 seconds, 45 seconds, your initial reaction to it, okay?
Okay, it's like a Rorschach test.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay. All right.
No Child Left Behind.
The expectations are way too high. It's underfunded. However, it does set into place a system of accountability that makes some sense to us.
And after the most recent election, it's not going to go away.
No, and we're not going to go there about the most recent election.
School choice.
We had a bill to expand the number of charter schools, and currently there is the ability to go to about 600 charter schools. We haven't met that number yet. The bill was to expand that. I did vote for that bill to expand that. In terms of public monies going to private schools, I tend to oppose that, always have. However, I do think that the charter school movement, while it has some problems, is moving in a positive direction.
Mostly accountability problems?
It does have a lot of accountability problems, and most of those have been resolved with recent legislation that was enacted. But I think the choice within the public school system, if it's going to be publicly funded, has to remain within that system.
Standardized state tests.
I was a principal co-author with Lonnie Hancock from the East Bay to make high school exit exams optional by district. They have to give them because No Child Left Behind requires that, but to leave it up to the district to determine whether they wanted to put a high stakes testing as part of the graduation requirement. That bill did not get out of committee. Also was a co-author on a bill to delay the first round of testing from the second grade to the third grade. No Child Left Behind requires it starts in the third. California does it in the second. I've been in enough elementary classrooms where kids get physically ill facing the testing. And that bill died as well, unfortunately. I think we need testing, but I think we put too much emphasis on test scores.
More specifically, next topic, California high school exit exam.
I don't think that you should, to use a trite phrase, require all your eggs in a single basket. If a student performs well in all areas and in all classes, and for some reason, either language difficulties or some other drawbacks, is unable to pass a high school exit exam, I think that puts an onus on him or her, and I would oppose that. And that's why I was principal co-author of the optional. If districts want to make it a requirement, God love them, go for it. But I think that option should be there, and there should be some flexibility. I'm going to be in Marysville for a hearing a week from next Wednesday, specifically dealing with high school exit exams, to get testimony from people on the ground about them.
We only have a few more seconds, but real quick, retaining good teachers.
In San Mateo County, to me, it's a question of housing. Where are teachers who want to work in this area going to live? And so part of the retention of teachers is going to be able to design a system where they can live close by to where they work, so they're not driving in from all parts from Tracy. or from the outlying areas. And so that, I think, is the first step. Let's create a system where they can live close to where they work. That'll go a long way to retention, because who wouldn't want to teach in San Mateo County?
Excellent. You did very well on the hot topics, Gene.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining me.
Pleasure. Look forward to doing it again.
The best lessons about voting and civil rights may be best learned outside the classroom. Find out how after this short break. Stay with us.
In January, it's so nice. Walk women on sliding ice.
Prudential California Realty is pleased to support the South San Francisco Unified School District. With several offices located throughout the South Bay, we help home buyers realize their dreams of ownership and sellers maximize their home investment. Prudential California Realty is a longtime partner with education, having created the Education Foundation in 1992, which provides grants to teachers throughout Northern California. Prudential California Realty, your partner in real estate.
You've always been like a son to me, Mikey. And that's why I find it unfortunate that we're in this little situation here. No, don't do it. Don't do it. You're gonna pay for this. Peninsula TV, how will it affect you?
This is a great time to be a high school government teacher. The lessons learned from the recall of our governor recently and the subsequent election of Arnold Schwarzenegger, to the war in Iraq and the attempt to bring democracy to the Mideast, and the most recent presidential election demonstrating the power of voting in our democracy. I recently met with Ashley Gray, government teacher at South San Francisco High School. For the past 5 years, Ashley has taken students on a trip to the South to learn firsthand about what a struggle it was for some in our society to earn that right to vote. Let's take a look at this segment, filmed by the student film crew from South San Francisco High School. With me is Ashley Gray, government teacher and social studies department chair at South San Francisco High School. Also, Noelia Linares, a freshman student at San Francisco State University who was a senior at South San Francisco High School last year and participated on an exciting trip called Sojourn to the Past. And it's really fitting that we're discussing this particular event today on November 2nd, Election Day. Ashley, 5 years ago, you started taking students to the Deep South to learn about civil rights firsthand in a program called Sojourn to the Past. What's that program all about?
Sojourn to the Past is an opportunity for local Bay Area high school students to literally walk in the footsteps of the civil rights movement and literally be able to shake the hands of not only the heroes of the movement, but also some of the unknown foot soldiers who really made a difference and made a change in the way everybody in the country was treated, the opportunities that everybody had in education, the opportunities that everybody had with jobs, and especially, as you alluded to, opportunities for everybody to have an equal opportunity to vote.
How did you find out about the program? What made you aware of it, and what about this particular program really spoke to you?
5 years ago, Jeff Steinberg, the executive director of Sojourn to the Past, came to our school and made a presentation. And I brought one of my classes down to hear the presentation. Didn't know anything about the program prior to that. And I was literally blown away by the opportunities that the program offered our students. Teaching at a high school such as South San Francisco that has the incredible diversity, it really struck me that that the lessons of this trip would really resonate with some of our students, and I felt that it was imperative that South City participate.
How's this program grown since you first started with it 5 years ago?
5 years ago, we had 4 students that went on that first trip. It grew to 8 the following year. Then we took 12. Last year, we took 26. And this year, we have 28 students who are going to be participating.
Wow. So it's been growing exponentially every year as the word gets out.
That is correct, and hopefully we can continue it. It would be our goal to continue to increase the numbers, and the more students that go on the trip, the better. Not only for those students that are on the trip, but when they return to the school, I really feel that they are ambassadors for some of the lessons that they learn, not only for this school community, but the community of South San Francisco.
Let's hear from Noelia and her experiences on Sojourn to the Past. What impressed you most about the trip last year?
I think a lot of the lessons that we learned were really a big impact, coming from lessons from like the McNair family, which was one of the 4 girls that died in a church bombing. Having their father and her older sisters talk about how her death impacted their family, having learned about the issues of like Shaney, Goodman, and Schwerner, 3 men that were taken into jail and then just disappeared and later on found dead. Having people keep sort of like a hush-hush feeling over that, just having all these lessons that you get to hear from people that were either there or are some way into the family, just having detail and having that feeling like if you're there, I think that gives a good impact to students.
How does this kind of a trip compare with classroom learning? What's the difference?
I think it's different having more of that feeling of being there. Like when you're in the classroom, it's out of a textbook. You don't always get the full detail. It's kind of like a brief story of what happened, and actually being there and having people talk to you that were there around the area, or if they knew a lot about the history, it's more into detail, they bring it more into life than if you were just to get it from a textbook. Sometimes textbooks don't have all the information or the right information, so having people talk to you about the issue and having the actual details, I think, are a lot better than getting it from a textbook.
One of the things that students often ask teachers, especially in high school when they're learning something, what good is this going to do me? How can I use this, when I leave school? How can I use this in my everyday life? How have you been able to apply what you learned on Sojourn to your everyday life?
Something that you learn a lot is not being a silent witness. I think that was one of the major points that they had throughout the entire trip. And basically with that is that you speak for them, if not for yourself. Instead of keeping it to yourself and keeping it hush, not, to a secret, you're more speaking out for them. You're making a difference. You're speaking for those that couldn't speak for themselves at that moment. And
speaking of that, yeah. How old are you?
I am 18.
Are you registered to vote?
Yes, I am.
Did you vote today?
Yes, I did.
Are you glad?
Yes.
And did going on Sojourn have something to do with that?
I think so, because a lot with the whole thing with Sojourn too is the right to vote. I think that's another big point. All these people throughout the trip that you meet had something to do with that, giving you that right that you have now to vote. Before, not everyone was able to. It was more of the people that had the money. You learn about a lot of people that didn't have that money, but still, some way or another, were able to slowly. And I think a lot of those people had a big impact on how everyone is able to vote, no matter what race you are, where in the social level you might be, or anything like that. I think a lot of people had to do a lot with what you have now. So. No,
thank you. Actually, I want to ask you a couple of quick questions. How much does a trip like this cost, and how do students fund it?
The cost is $2,300 per student, wow. Which seems like a lot of money when you hear that number right off the bat. It includes the plane tickets from San Francisco to Atlanta and from Memphis back. It includes 10 nights of hotel. It includes all of the meals, speaker honorariums, entrance to all the museums. It includes 5 books, 3 college credits, which in itself wow. could run, close to $1,000. So
I bet Noelia took advantage of those credits.
She absolutely did.
If students don't have the family doesn't have the money to fund that,
sure.
What's available?
Here at South San Francisco, we have a club called the Dream Team, and the Dream Team is a club that we meet on a weekly basis. And our principal reasons for meeting is to do fundraising. We do letter writing campaigns, and we do various fundraisers on campus. One of the reasons why I'm so excited to be on your program this evening is we're hoping to spread the good news of this program and hopefully generate some interest within the community. Mr. Huggins over at See's Candy, they've been tremendous donors to us, as are Rigel Pharmaceuticals and other community groups, and we're hoping to just educate more people on the program and get some more support.
If somebody out there wants to participate and make a donation, a tax-deductible donation, I might add,
Correct.
how can they get a hold of you?
The best way would be through the high school, South San Francisco High School, Sojourn to the Past, 400 B Street, South San Francisco, 94080, and they can feel free to call at 650-877-8754.
Wonderful program, Ashley.
Thank you
It's
very much.
exciting. Noelia, thank you for coming on with us. It's great that you voted today, and Ashley, good luck with this year's trip. I was extremely impressed doing this interview with Ashley Gray, government teacher at South San Francisco High School, and the student who had been on the trip last year. She obviously was very excited about going on the trip. It made a big difference in her life, and it's an excellent program, and I hope that there are sponsors out there that will consider making donations to this program. Contact Ashley Gray at South San Francisco High School. You can call 650-877-8844 and contact Mr. Gray and see what you can do about helping these kids get to the South and experiencing something really special. When we come back, we'll meet an extraordinary teacher and an author in our spotlight. Don't go away.
In January, it's so nice. Walk swimming on the sliding ice.
If you live on the peninsula, there's only one place to get the latest news on business, sports, politics, education, and your community. Peninsula TV, Channel 26, the Peninsula and South Bay's Emmy Award-winning programming resource. For more information or for a programming schedule, go to PenTV.tv or call us at 650-637-1936. Peninsula TV, your community programming channel.
Real estate with Bobby Decker is for anyone who owns a home or aspires to do so. Everything that is important to or an interesting facet of home ownership will be covered by our program. Please join us. You won't want to miss Real Estate with me, your host, Bobby Decker.
Emmy Award-winning Peninsula TV provides a large multifunctional TV studio and video production facility, state-of-the-art equipment, and affordable prices. Let our professional staff and crew produce your company or organization's next video, or create your own TV series and air it on one of the Bay Area's largest community cable channels. Contact Peninsula TV at pentv.tv or call 650-637-1936.
Pat Barrett-Dragon has been a teacher for over 37 years, 36 of those years with the South San Francisco Unified School District, teaching elementary school in several South San Francisco schools. Pat is on her third tour of duty at Martin Elementary School, and she's in our spotlight this evening. Pat, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for asking me.
Pat, when you came back to Martin School, I guess for the third time in the late 80s, the student body had changed. How had it changed?
There were many different languages as opposed to mostly just English when I had been there before. And many of my children spoke Spanish, and I didn't. And I had no resources, really. I asked the children to translate for me. And one boy got a little sick of it, and he said, "Is your problem?" And I thought, this kid's 6, and he's smarter than I am.
So this was first grade?
Yes, so I went to learn Spanish.
So you went to learn Spanish after teaching many, many years?
Yes.
And how was that?
It was hard. I know how they feel in the classroom. I went to Mexico. I was in some basic language classes, but I had an elective class where I was the only person who hadn't a clue what was going on, so I know what that feels like. It's pretty awful.
But now you're pretty fluent in Spanish, and it works for you and your students?
It works for me. They help me.
Excellent. What is it about Martin School that keeps you coming back to that place for the third time?
It's a big school family. It's multi-generational. We have a lot of families who've been there. The father or mother went there as a child. Everyone's very appreciative of anything we do for their children. And you feel like you make a difference. Our children are struggling not just to learn academics, but also to learn the language. And and they work very hard at it. And I think our whole student body knows a lot more about language in general than a lot of kids, because they're dealing with it. They're seeing other kids learning it. They're learning another language themselves.
Because of the diversity
Yes.
of the school.
Right.
Well, I have a soft spot for Martin School because I went to Martin School from kindergarten through 4th grade quite a few years ago,
I didn't know that.
but I went to Martin School too. The other side of Pat Barrett Dragon is the author, Pat Barrett Dragon. And you started writing children's books in the 70s. What kind of books were those? And I know you have some of them out here. What kind of books were this?
These were our How to Do It books for children, and I wrote them with a co-author, Rosemary Dalton. And I did the illustrations, and the children did the illustrations.
Now,
And
can we get a shot of that? Is that the children's illustration or your illustration?
this is the child's illustration.
Oh, okay, I like that. What is that?
This is a watermelon, a child's eye view of a watermelon.
And so this is a how-to book on,
This one's cooking, the kids' cookbook.
and that particular one is on how to eat a watermelon.
Yeah, all the kids' art is on chapter headings, beginnings of chapters and things like that.
And how many of the, what other how-to books have you written for children?
There were 5, an art book, kids' arts and crafts, pets,
Kids' party book?
party book,
How to throw a party?
and a garden book.
Oh, I like this one. Can we get a shot of this one? There's the gardener. And this is the student drawing?
No, that was the art director at the publishing company, and he was left-handed, so he drew it right-handed, so it looked
So
like
it looked
the
more,
kid did.
okay, that's good. I love those. But then you went into different kinds of projects later on. And you did some other writing. What other kind of writing?
These are How to Do It books for teachers. I seem to be coming back to how to do
You
it.
like the how-to theme, yeah, okay. And what is that one there that you're holding up?
This one's literacy from day one. These are my students. I snuck up on them when they were reading and took the photo. And it's about the joys of literacy and how to help children just really love reading and writing and taking a book home at night for someone to read to them.
Now, is that a book for parents or for teachers?
It's for both. I think it's for both. But Heinemann is a teacher publishing company. It's a publishing company of educational materials. So it's more, the first audience is teachers.
And when did you write that book?
It came out in 2001.
Very recent. And you have your latest one. Can you show us that?
This one came out in September of 2003.
And that's everything you need to know to teach first grade.
Right.
And that's
there we are.
Is that your class?
That's my class.
And you're right there in the middle of your class?
Yes.
And what's the best, real quick, what's the best part of that book? What's one of the first things you need to know to teach first grade?
One of the wonderful things is to record what you do after school every day for even just 7 minutes. And then the children will start informing your teaching. What you see about your day will help inform your teaching. And when I wrote this book, what I wrote from the kids informed my writing as well, because they had great comments.
It's a collaborative book.
It's a collaborative book.
I wish we had more time to talk about it, Pat. Thank you very much for joining us, and I love your classroom. We got to see some of that. The viewers did. It's a wonderful student-centered classroom.
Thank you.
That's about all we have for tonight. Remember, in South San Francisco, we know our children are our future. See you next time.